Welcome back to Mr. English Lab. My name is Emma, and I'm here to guide you on your journey to clear, confident, and natural English. If you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss a lesson. Your support truly helps this channel grow. All right, take a deep breath, relax, and let's begin today's session. I want you to imagine this moment very clearly, because this is where our story begins. Imagine you wake up early in the morning and the world around you is still quiet. The sun is not fully up yet and everything feels soft and slow. You open your eyes and feel that gentle silence, the kind of silence that makes you think something new is coming. You stretch your arms, take a deep breath, and for a moment, you feel calm. But then a small thought enters your mind. Today is different. Today you will face English in real situations, not in a textbook, not in a lesson, but in the real world, with real voices, real sounds, real people. And suddenly, you feel something between fear and excitement. That feeling right there is the beginning of change, and this whole story starts when you decide to step outside your comfort zone and understand English like native speakers use it every day. You get out of bed, walk to the window, and look outside. The world is waking up slowly. You see people walking with coffee cups, dogs pulling their owners, kids rushing to school with backpacks that look too heavy for them. Everything moves with a rhythm, almost like a slow heartbeat of the town. And in that moment, you imagine yourself inside that rhythm, walking among them, hearing English from every direction, understanding it with ease, responding naturally, calmly, confidently. You imagine yourself catching every small detail in their speech, those fast words, those soft sounds, those small expressions that native speakers use without thinking. You imagine not freezing, not panicking, not searching for words in your mind. You imagine yourself simply living in English. And as you look outside, you whisper quietly to yourself, maybe today I can try. Maybe today I can understand more than yesterday. You put on simple clothes, grab your phone, and open the door. The outside air is cool and fresh. You start walking down the street, and as you walk, your mind plays stories of the English you learned in school. You remember teachers telling you to memorize grammar rules, long lists of vocabulary, and complicated sentences that nobody uses in real conversations. You remember reading strange texts that felt nothing like real life. And maybe you even remember moments when someone spoke English to you quickly, naturally, and you felt lost, confused, unable to catch even half of the words. Maybe you nodded politely, pretending to understand, but inside your mind, everything felt like a storm. But today, you tell yourself, I want something different. I want English that I can feel. English that I can use. English that sounds real. You walk toward a small cafe at the corner of the street, a place you have seen many times but never entered. Today feels like the right moment. You push the door gently. A small bell rings above your head and warm air, full of the smell of coffee and baked bread, wraps around you. Inside the cafe, everything feels friendly. Wooden tables, soft lights, and people talking quietly. But this time you are not just looking. You are listening. You hear a woman telling her friend, I didn't sleep much last night, with that soft, natural rhythm. You hear a man ordering coffee, can I get a latte, please? You hear a child saying, Mom, look. All of these small, simple sentences are real English, alive, moving, flowing, nothing like the ones in textbooks. And suddenly you realize something important. Real English is not difficult. Real English is simple, short, direct, emotional. Real English comes from life, not from grammar books. You stand in line, and your heart starts beating a little faster. Soon you will need to speak. You will need to order something. You will need to use English in a real moment. And even though your hands feel slightly warm with nervousness, you tell yourself, this is good. This is how I learn. When the barista looks at you with a smile and says, Good morning, What can I get for you? Time freezes for half a second. Your mind searches for the right words, but you remember your goal. Simple English. So you smile back and say slowly, "Good morning. Can I have a coffee, please?" The barista nods and asks, "Sure. Anything else?" You shake your head. "No, that's all. Thank you." And just like that, you did it. The first small real English moment of your day. You move to the side, waiting for your drink, and something shifts inside you. You feel a bit taller, a bit stronger, a bit lighter. Something inside you whispers, "Maybe I can do more." And as you wait, you listen again to the people in the cafe. You listen not only to the words, but to the rhythm, the emotion, the music of the language. You notice how native speakers connect words together. Wanna, gonna, I dunno, sounds good, right now, hold on, hang on. You hear these expressions many times, and you think, why are these not in textbooks? Why did nobody teach me these? But now that you hear them in real life, they suddenly feel natural, easy to understand, and somehow comforting. Your name is called. You take your coffee and sit by the window. The cafe feels alive, and you feel like a part of it. You take a small sip of your drink and watch the world outside. And as you sit there, something interesting happens. You start noticing patterns in the conversations around you. You notice that native speakers don't always speak in full sentences. They speak in small pieces, like puzzle parts. "Yeah, I know. Hold on a sec. Wait, really? That's crazy. I mean, sort of. Kind of." All these pieces create a natural flow, a flow you never saw in textbooks, but now understand through experience. You feel proud of yourself for noticing these things. You feel like your ears are waking up. Then an older man sits at the table next to you. He takes out a newspaper, opens it, and sighs softly. After a moment, he looks at you with a gentle smile and says, "Cold morning, huh?" His voice is calm, warm, friendly. And for a second, you feel nervous again. Someone is talking to you. Someone is starting a real conversation. But you remember your goal. Simple English. So you smile and answer, "Yeah, it is. Very cold." He nods and continues, "But I like mornings like this. Feels peaceful." You nod back. "Yes, it does." The conversation is small, simple, friendly. Nothing heavy, nothing complex. And suddenly you realize something important. Real conversations start from small sentences. Real English is built from small pieces that grow into bigger ones. The man reads his paper again, and you go back to your coffee, but your heart feels lighter. You talked to someone. You answered naturally. You understood everything. And it wasn't scary. It wasn't stressful. It was simple. You realized that maybe the fear you always carried came from the idea that English had to be perfect, long, complicated. But here, in this cafe, surrounded by real voices, you discover the truth. English becomes easier when you stop trying to be perfect. Native speakers are not perfect. They make mistakes, repeat words, pause, and use simple sentences all the time. You finish your drink and stand up. When you walk outside again, the street feels different. It feels like a classroom, a place full of English, full of opportunities to listen and understand. You walk slowly, paying attention to signs, conversations, announcements, even the sound of cars passing by. Everything becomes part of your learning. Everything becomes a small lesson. And with each step, your confidence grows. As you walk toward the bus stop, you hear two teenagers talking. They speak fast, very fast, and at first, it sounds impossible to follow. But instead of panicking, you decide to listen differently. You don't try to catch every word. You try to catch the feeling, the tone, the flow. And suddenly you understand the general meaning. You don't need every word to understand the idea. And that moment feels like a small victory, a secret moment where you whisper to yourself, "I can understand more than I thought." The bus arrives. You get on, sit by the window, and watch the world move past you. As the bus drives, you think about everything you experienced this morning. The small conversations, the natural expressions, the fast speech, the simple flow. You feel something growing inside you, a new connection with English, one that feels natural and real. And as the bus continues down the road, you tell yourself, quietly, this is only the beginning. When the bus finally stops in the center of the city, you step down and feel a warm wave of sound wash over you, almost like entering a different world. Cars move past you with a steady hum, people walk quickly in every direction, and English fills the air like music. You hear footsteps, laughter, short conversations, distant announcements, and all these sounds mix together into something new, something exciting, something a little overwhelming, but strangely beautiful. You stand there for a moment just listening, letting your ears adjust, almost like your eyes when you walk out of a dark room into bright sunlight. At first, everything feels too fast, too loud, too connected, but then you breathe slowly, and you begin to hear the patterns again, the same small expressions you heard in the cafe, the same short sentences, the same natural rhythm that native English speakers use without thinking. And slowly, English begins to feel less like a lesson and more like a living language with a heartbeat of its own. You start walking toward the main street, and as you move through the crowd, you begin to understand something new about real English. It lives in everyday moments, in small interactions, in tiny exchanges that seem unimportant but actually teach you everything. Two people stand by the corner talking about the weather. One of them says, "Looks like it's gonna rain later." That phrase, gonna, you've seen it online many times, but hearing it here, spoken naturally, feels different. It feels real. Another person says on the phone, "Hold on, I'm almost there," and you notice how fast the words "hold on" connect, almost like one sound. A couple near a shop window argue softly, one saying, "I don't think we need that," and the other responding, "Come on, it's not that expensive." And with every step, every voice, every sentence that floats through the air, you feel your understanding grow a little stronger. You reach a crosswalk and wait for the light to change. A group of tourists stands next to you, and they look confused, staring at a map. One of them, a woman with a bright red hat, says, "I have no idea where we are," and her friend laughs and answers, "We're totally lost." You smile quietly, because even though their English is natural and fast, you understand everything. And that gives you a small spark of confidence, a warm little flame inside your chest. You realize that you're beginning to understand conversations without effort, not because you know every word, but because you understand the intention, the tone, the emotion. And that feels like progress, real progress, the kind that grows slowly but stays with you forever. When the light turns green, you cross the street and walk into a small open square. The square is full of life, street musicians playing guitars, kids blowing soap bubbles, a man selling fresh flowers, and groups of friends sitting on low walls talking and laughing. You walk slowly, listening carefully, letting English come to you naturally instead of forcing it. A musician finishes a song, and someone in the crowd shouts, "That was awesome." Another person says, "Do you guys want to grab lunch somewhere?" The sound of their natural rhythm feels friendly to your ears, almost like waves hitting the shore, sometimes soft, sometimes fast, but always controlled. You notice how people blend words together. "You guys wanna grab lunch somewhere? That was awesome." These phrases feel alive, useful, and suddenly you see them as keys that unlock real English, the kind spoken on the streets, not written in grammar books. You stop to watch a man making balloon animals for children. He twists long, colored balloons with quick movements, and the kids watch with wide eyes. A small girl asks him, "Can you make a unicorn?" And he laughs, "I can try," stretching the word try with a playful smile. The word try feels so simple, yet the way he says it shows emotion, humor, character. And you think to yourself, English isn't just words. It's feelings. It's timing. It's music. You realize that understanding English requires listening not only with your ears, but also with your heart. It requires paying attention to the small emotional signals people send through their voice. You continue walking through the square and enter a bookstore. The inside is warm and quiet, a gentle contrast to the busy city outside. Shelves are full of books, some old and soft, some new and bright. The air smells like paper and ink, and the soft sound of pages turning makes you feel calm. You walk slowly between the shelves, and as you do, you hear a quiet conversation between two employees. One says, "We're out of that book again," and the other answers, "Really? That was fast." They speak clearly, but their tone is relaxed, almost sleepy. Their English is simple, but the way they say things tells you they've worked here for a long time, and this kind of situation happens all the time. You find yourself understanding not only their words, but also their feelings, surprise, acceptance, routine. And this makes you realize something important. Understanding English in real situations means listening to the emotion, not just the vocabulary. You move to another aisle and see two teenagers sitting on the floor with books open in their laps. One of them says, "I don't get this chapter at all," and the other laughs, "Same." It makes no sense. They talk quickly, but their meaning is clear. You understand because the tone of their voices shows confusion, frustration, and a bit of humor. You realize that even if you didn't catch every word, you would still understand the situation. This understanding, this ability to follow the general meaning without knowing everything, makes you smile. It feels like another small victory. You walk toward the front desk, where a young woman is helping a customer. The customer says, "Do you have this book in paperback?" And the woman responds, "Let me check for you." Her voice is polite, friendly, natural. You watch how she interacts with customers, how she uses soft expressions like, "No worries, here you go, take your time, have a nice day." You realize how useful these small expressions are, how often they appear in everyday English, and how they help conversations feel smooth and comfortable. You make a mental note to practice them later. You leave the bookstore and step back into the busy street. For a moment, you stand there listening. Cars, people, conversations, footsteps, they all blend into the sound of life. And as you listen, you begin to understand another important truth. Every place has its own English. The cafe had soft, slow English. The square had fast, energetic English. The bookstore had quiet, polite English. And here, on the street, English is alive, full of movement and change. You realize that to truly understand native speakers, you need to experience English in different places, different moods, different moments. This thought excites you. It makes you feel like the city is your classroom, and every voice is your teacher. You walk toward a small park, and as you enter the park, everything becomes quieter. The sound of the city fades a little, and you hear birds, leaves moving with the wind, and a few people talking softly. You sit on a bench and watch a group of friends having a picnic. They laugh loudly, pass snacks to each other, and talk in a natural flow that feels fast but friendly. You listen to their conversation, not every detail, but enough to understand. You catch phrases like, "I'm telling you, no way, seriously. Come on, stop it, that's hilarious." These small expressions carry emotion. They help conversations feel alive. And as you listen, you realize that English is more emotional than you thought. It's not just rules and words. It's reactions, feelings, expressions of personality. A dog runs past you, chasing a ball, and a man behind it shouts, "Buddy, slow down." His voice is full of playful frustration. The dog ignores him, and the man laughs. That laugh tells you more than any sentence could. And in that moment, you understand something beautiful. Language is not just sound. It's connection. When someone laughs, sighs, whispers, or pauses, they tell a story without words. And understanding these emotional details makes you feel closer to the language, like it's becoming part of you, slowly, naturally, step by step. You stand up, stretch your legs, and begin walking again. You move deeper into the park, where the trees are tall and the path curves gently. You hear someone talking on a bench as you pass by, a woman speaking on the phone, saying, "Yeah, I'll be there in like 10 minutes. That phrase in like sounds so natural, so common, and you wonder why no teacher ever explained how native speakers actually talk. But now, hearing it in real life, you understand it immediately. You don't need anyone to explain it. Real experience becomes your teacher. You reach a small lake in the park. The water is calm, almost still, and a few ducks move quietly across the surface. You sit on the grass and listen to the soft conversations around you. A father says to his daughter, "Careful, don't go too close," and she answers, "I'm fine." Two friends sitting nearby say, "I needed this break," and the other replies, "Yeah, me too." These sentences are simple, but they show real-life concern, comfort, calmness. And as you listen, your understanding becomes deeper, stronger, more natural. You realize you are no longer fighting the language. You are letting it flow into you. You look at your phone and notice the time. You've been walking, listening, and learning for hours without realizing it. And that realization makes you feel something warm, pride, quiet, and soft, but definitely there. You whisper to yourself, "I understand more than I expected. I understand real English." That sentence, spoken softly to yourself, feels like a moment of transformation. You stand up again and start walking toward the exit of the park. The day feels brighter now, not just because of the sun, but because of the progress you feel inside. The city no longer feels scary or confusing. It feels like a teacher, a guide, a friend. And as you leave the park and walk back into the busy street, you tell yourself, "I want more. I want to keep going." And so you do. When you leave the park and return to the busy street, something inside you feels different, almost like the world has changed its shape. But in truth, the world is the same. The only thing that changed is you. Your ears feel more awake, more open, more curious. Every sound around you now feels meaningful, even the ones you once ignored. You take a slow step forward and listen again to the voices around you, not just for the words, but for the feelings hiding between those words. You notice things you never noticed before, the way people pause before answering a question, the way they stretch certain sounds when they are surprised, the way their voices drop softly when they feel tired or thoughtful. And these small details teach you something powerful. Understanding real English is not about understanding every single word. It's about catching the emotion, the intention, the energy behind the words. It's about listening between the lines, not just to the lines themselves. You pass by a bus stop where a young woman is talking to her friend. Her voice is quick and full of frustration, and she says, "I told him like 5 times already," and even though she doesn't tell the whole story, you immediately understand her mood. Her friend answers with a calm voice, "Just let it go," and the soft tone tells you that he's trying to bring her back to peace. You understand this conversation even without knowing who they're talking about or what happened. And you smile because this is real communication. This is the heart of language, understanding feelings, not just grammar. As you keep walking, you hear 2 workers standing by a delivery truck. One says, "Man, this day is never gonna end," and the other laughs, "Tell me about it." You understand both sentences instantly. But what surprises you is how natural they sound. You realize that even simple sentences can tell big stories when spoken with emotion. You start to understand why native speakers often say so much with so little. They don't need long sentences because their tone, their expression, their rhythm carry the meaning. And you realize that if you can understand this, these simple pieces spoken with emotion, you can understand far more than you ever imagined. You walk into a small side street, quieter and calmer than the main road. The buildings here are older, with small shops and tiny cafes that feel like hidden treasures. As you walk past a bakery, you hear someone inside say, "I'll be right with you," and that one sentence carries a feeling of warmth, kindness, service. You feel how soft and friendly the phrase is. You pass a tailor shop and hear an older man say, "Give me a sec," and even though the phrase is short, the tone tells you he's busy but not annoyed. These details make you understand that real English is full of emotional signals, and learning to notice them makes understanding easier, not harder. You begin to enjoy the way people speak, the way their voices move like paint on a soft canvas. Then you stop in front of a small old-fashioned cafe that looks quiet and inviting. You decide to step inside. The bell above the door rings, and the warm smell of roasted coffee and fresh pastries fills the air around you. There's soft music playing, just a gentle melody in the background, and only a few customers sitting quietly, reading or writing. You choose a table near the window. When the waitress walks over, she smiles with a gentle voice and asks, "What can I get for you today?" Her tone is calm and slow, and it makes you feel safe, less nervous. You answer, "A tea, please," and she nods with a friendly, "Sure thing." That phrase, "sure thing," feels warm and familiar, even if you've only heard it a few times before. You like how natural it sounds, how relaxed, how real. While waiting, you listen again. At the table behind you, two women are talking quietly, and their voices move like soft waves. One says, "I've been thinking about changing jobs," and the other answers, "Yeah." "What kind of job?" The first woman hesitates, then says, "I'm not sure yet." You hear the uncertainty in her voice, the small shake that shows she's nervous but hopeful. The second woman responds gently, "You'll figure it out." These simple words feel comforting even to you, someone who is just listening from a distance. And you realize that you understood everything, not because the sentences were simple, but because you understood the emotion behind them. Your tea arrives, and you hold the warm cup in your hands. As you take your first sip, you look around the cafe and think about everything you've learned today. You realize that real English is like a river. It flows. It changes speed. It moves naturally without stopping. You cannot freeze the river to study each drop. You must watch it flow, feel its movement, listen to its rhythm. And slowly, as you keep watching and listening, you begin to understand its pattern. That's how English works too. You learn not by stopping it, but by letting it flow around you. You take another sip and listen more carefully. The man at the counter is talking to the barista. He says, "This is exactly what I needed," and the barista laughs softly and answers, "Rough day." The man shrugs and says, "You have no idea." Even without context, you understand his exhaustion. You feel the weight of his day in the slow way he speaks. These natural expressions, "rough day," "you have no idea," "exactly what I needed," sound like old friends now. They feel familiar because you've heard the rhythm of real English all morning. The more you listen, the more these expressions enter your memory naturally, without studying, without trying. You finish your tea and step outside again. The air feels cooler now, but the city still moves with the same steady beat. You walk slowly, letting your mind replay the voices you've heard. And then something interesting happens. You begin to hear English inside your mind, not as text from a book, but as natural speech, with real voices, real rhythm, real emotion. For the first time, your inner voice tries to speak English the way you heard it, softer in some places, faster in others, sometimes connected, sometimes pausing. You whisper a few phrases to yourself. Hold on, come on, I'm not sure. You'll figure it out, and they feel natural in your mouth, like they belong to you. And that realization fills you with a warm, growing confidence. You walk past a small market where people are buying fresh vegetables and fruit. You hear short, everyday phrases like, "How much is this?" and "Do you want a bag?" and "Thanks, have a good one." These small pieces of language feel like tiny gifts from the universe, teaching you something new with every interaction. You stop at a stand and ask the seller, "Can I get 2 apples?" And he answers with a smile, "Sure thing." That phrase again. It feels friendly, warm, almost like a message from earlier in the day returning to you. You take your apples, say thank you, and walk away feeling proud. Every small interaction builds your confidence, one brick at a time. As you continue walking, you pass a group of college students sitting on the steps of a building. They are laughing and talking quickly, but this time, their speed doesn't scare you. You listen to the way they speak, the way their words bounce off each other. One says, "You're kidding," and another answers, "No, I swear," and the rest laugh. You understand the joke even without hearing the whole thing, because you understand their tone, their energy, their emotion. You realize that understanding real English is not a test you must pass. It's more like joining a dance. You watch, you listen, you feel the rhythm, and slowly you begin to move with it. You reach a quiet street with tall trees and long shadows stretching across the sidewalk. The city noise softens behind you, and the world becomes calmer. As you walk under the shade, you think about all the small victories you've had today, the cafe conversation, the natural expressions, the emotional understanding, the rhythm of real speech. You realize how much progress you've made without even trying to study. You didn't sit at a desk. You didn't open a grammar book. You simply listened, noticed, felt. And that's when you understand something powerful. Real language learning happens not by memorizing, but by experiencing. Not by pushing, but by allowing. Not by trying to control the language, but by letting the language come to you. You reach a quiet street with tall trees and long shadows stretching across the sidewalk. The city noise softens behind you, and the world becomes calmer. As you walk under the shade, you think about all the small victories you've had today, the cafe conversation, the natural expressions, the emotional understanding, the rhythm of real speech. You realize how much progress you've made without even trying to study. You didn't sit at a desk. You didn't open a grammar book. You simply listened, noticed, felt. And that's when you understand something powerful. Real language learning happens not by memorizing, but by experiencing. Not by pushing, but by allowing. Not by trying to control the language, but by letting the language come to you. You stop near a bench and sit down for a moment. The air is quiet here, and your mind feels full, not heavy, but full in a good way, like a cup finally filled with warm tea. You close your eyes and replay the day in your mind. Every voice, every small sentence, every emotional moment. You feel proud, but not the loud kind of pride. The soft kind. The kind that whispers, "You're growing. Keep going." And as you sit there under the shade of the trees, you understand that this journey is not just about English. It's about opening yourself to the world, to people, to moments, to connection. You stand up again and whisper to yourself, "This is how I learn. This is how I grow." And with those quiet words, you take your next step forward into the living river of English, ready for whatever voices come next. When you continue walking through the quiet tree-lined street, You notice that the light is beginning to change, slowly turning warmer, softer, like the afternoon is gently preparing to become evening. Something about this light makes everything feel calmer, and as you breathe in the cool air, you feel your mind relaxing, opening, almost stretching in a peaceful way. Your steps become slower, not because you are tired, but because you are thinking, deeply thinking, about everything you have learned today without even planning to learn it. You realize that the city itself has been your teacher, a teacher that doesn't use textbooks or grammar charts, but uses real people, real voices, real emotions. And as you walk, you begin to understand that real English is built from these natural moments, from imperfect speech, from feelings that hide under short phrases, from the rhythm of life. And then you hear a soft voice coming from behind you, someone saying, "Excuse me, do you know if there's a bus stop nearby?" The sound is warm, polite, and you turn around to see a woman holding a small backpack, looking slightly lost. For a second, your old nervousness tries to come back, but then you breathe, smile, and answer simply, "Yes, it's down that way," pointing toward the main road. She smiles with relief and says, "Oh, thank you so much," and just like that, you complete your first spontaneous real English interaction of the afternoon. It is simple, short, natural, but it makes you feel capable, like your voice now belongs in this world of English speakers. You continue walking, and soon the quiet street opens again into a busy part of the city. This time, however, the noise doesn't feel overwhelming. It feels familiar, almost like a song you've been listening to all day and now can understand better. You walk past a restaurant where two waiters are standing outside. One of them says, "We're gonna be packed tonight," and the other responds, "Don't remind me." Their tone is half joking, half stressed, and you immediately understand their feelings. You don't need a dictionary. The emotion tells you everything. This, you realize, is the hidden language inside every conversation. The tone, the pace, the small sighs, the laughter, the hesitation. These details tell you more than the words themselves. And when you begin to hear these details, real communication becomes much easier. As you walk farther, you pass a man sitting on a bench speaking on the phone. His voice rises and falls like waves. "No, I didn't forget," he says, a little annoyed. "I just didn't have time." You hear the stress in his voice, but also the honesty. The person on the other end says something you cannot hear, and the man sighs, then says more softly, "Okay, I'll figure it out." You understand the whole emotional story even without hearing both sides of the conversation. And this moment fills you with a quiet excitement. You are now understanding English, not through vocabulary lists, but through human connection. You walk into a small shopping street full of little stores. People walk in and out, carrying bags, talking, laughing. You hear bits of conversations everywhere. "Does this look good on me?" "I'm starving, let's get something to eat." "Wait, hold on, no way, really?" These tiny sentences float around you like leaves carried by the wind. They may seem ordinary, but they're the core of real English, the English that you need to understand if you want to feel comfortable in real situations. And slowly, naturally, they begin to feel familiar. You step into a convenience store to get a bottle of water. Inside, it's quiet except for soft music playing overhead. You pick up the bottle and walk to the counter. The cashier greets you with a simple, "Hey, how's it going?" And you recognize this phrase now not as a question that needs a long answer, but as a natural greeting. So you answer, "Good," with a smile. The cashier nods and says, "Cool," then rings up your purchase. He asks, "You need a bag?" and you shake your head, "No, thanks." The whole exchange is only a few seconds long, but it feels smooth, natural, real. And when you walk outside again, you feel a spark of pride, another small victory, another step forward. You start walking toward the river that runs through the center of the city. As you reach the riverbank, the noise of traffic fades, replaced by the calm sound of water moving slowly, gently. You sit on a bench and watch people passing by, runners, families, couples walking hand in hand. A little boy runs ahead of his mother, shouting, "Mom, look," and she answers, "Slow down." A couple walks past, and the girl says, "I'm so tired," while the boy answers, "Same here." All of these simple, everyday sentences fill the air like soft music, and you realize that you understand them instantly without thinking. This understanding comes not from studying, but from listening all day. Your ears have become more flexible, more open, more sensitive to real English. As you sit by the river, you hear a group of friends talking as they walk past you. One of them says, "I can't believe it's already Friday," and another responds, "I know, this week went so fast." Their conversation flows so easily, but you understand each word, each feeling, each small reaction. You begin to imagine yourself joining conversations like this, laughing, reacting, sharing stories, understanding jokes without translation. The thought of that future makes your heart feel warm, hopeful, excited. You decide to walk along the riverbank. The water shines softly under the golden afternoon light, and the air feels peaceful. You pass a man walking his dog, and he says to the dog, "Come on, buddy, don't stop now," and you smile because even the way people talk to their pets teaches you English. You realize that language exists everywhere, in jokes, in complaints, in gentle instructions, in tired sighs, in happy laughs. Everywhere you go, English is alive. You walk farther until you reach a small bridge. On the bridge, two teenagers are leaning on the railing, talking quietly. One says, "I don't know what to do," and the other answers, "Just talk to her." Seriously. You hear the honesty, the advice, the gentle push. You understand the whole scene, even without knowing who hurt is. And once again, you realize that understanding real English is not about understanding every single detail. It's about understanding the story behind the words. The sun begins to set slowly, turning the sky soft shades of orange and pink. You continue walking, feeling the cool air touch your face. As the city lights flicker on, everything feels different, almost magical. And inside you, something feels transformed too. You feel more confident than you did in the morning, more connected to the language, more aware of how English sounds in real life. You realize that this journey is changing you, not by force, not by pressure, but by gentle, natural exposure. You reach the end of the river path and sit on another bench. You watch the last bit of sunlight disappear behind the buildings. The city becomes quieter now, but the voices you heard all day continue to echo softly in your memory. And as you sit in this peaceful moment, you understand something deeply. Learning English is not about being perfect. It's about being present, listening, observing, feeling. And today you did all of that. You lived inside the language, step by step, moment by moment. You whisper to yourself, "I can do this. I really can." And those words, spoken softly into the cool evening air, feel like the beginning of something big, something that will continue growing tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. As the evening settles around you and the lights of the city glow brighter against the darkening sky, you stand up from the bench and begin walking again, feeling the cool night air brushing gently against your face, carrying with it the quiet sounds of distant conversations, laughter, and the occasional echo of music coming from a nearby cafe. You walk slowly, almost thoughtfully, because you can feel something changing inside you, something soft but strong, something that tells you that today has been more than just a normal day. It has been a turning point, a quiet transformation, a step into a new version of yourself. The more you walk, the more you think about the voices you heard throughout the day, the rhythm of their speech, the feelings behind their words, and how all those tiny moments connected with something deep inside you. You begin to realize that understanding English is not only about learning a language, it is about understanding people, understanding stories, understanding emotions hidden inside simple sentences. For the first time, English doesn't feel like a barrier. It feels like a bridge, a path, a light guiding you forward. You pass by a restaurant where people are sitting outside under strings of warm lights. A man at one of the tables laughs loudly and says to his friends, "You're ridiculous," and everyone laughs with him. You don't know the full story, but you understand the feeling perfectly. Their laughter feels honest, warm, and familiar. A young couple walks past you, holding hands, and the girl says softly, "I had such a long day," and the boy answers, "I know. But you made it." The tone of his voice is gentle, reassuring, comforting, and you understand everything he means, even the words he doesn't say. A mother kneels beside her child, saying, "It's okay, don't cry," in a calm, patient voice, and you feel the kindness in her speech. Everywhere you turn, you hear real English, not textbook English, not perfect sentences, but human English, full of feeling and color. And surprisingly, beautifully, you understand it. You continue walking down a street lined with small shops closing for the night. The owners stand outside locking doors and saying things like, "See you tomorrow," and "Take care," and "Good night." These simple expressions feel like little gifts, gentle reminders that language doesn't need to be complicated to be meaningful. You walk slowly, listening to each phrase like pieces of music. At one point, you stop near a bookstore closing for the night. The owner, an older man with glasses, stands outside pulling down the metal gate. Someone passing by asks him, "Closing already?" And he answers, "Yeah, it's been a long day." His voice is tired but peaceful, and you understand the full story behind that one sentence, that he worked hard, that he feels satisfied, that he is ready to rest. These are the small human details you never learned in English class, but now you feel them naturally. You reach the main road again, where cars glide past and people cross the street under glowing traffic lights. You stop at the corner and observe the world around you. A bus pulls up and you hear the driver call out, "Last stop," in a strong voice. Two teenagers argue playfully, one saying, "That's not what I said," and the other replying, "Yes, it is," with a teasing tone. A man on the phone walks briskly by, saying, "Okay, I'll call you back," and you can tell he's in a hurry. All these voices pass you like waves, soft and strong at the same time, and you suddenly understand how alive the English language is. It doesn't sit still. It moves. It dances. It breathes. It reflects the heart of the person speaking it. And you, standing on this busy street, feel like you are finally part of that living river of communication. You decide to walk toward a nearby bus stop to head home. As you approach, you hear two strangers waiting there talking for the first time. One of them says, "Isn't it colder than usual tonight?" And the other laughs softly, answering, "Tell me about it." Their small exchange feels warm, friendly, easy. You notice how natural it is for people to start conversations even when they don't know each other, using simple comments about the weather or how their day went. You suddenly understand that this is one of the secrets of real English. Conversation grows from small seeds. You don't need perfect sentences. You don't need impressive vocabulary. You just need a small connection, a simple moment, a shared feeling. The bus arrives, and you climb aboard. The interior lights glow softly, and a few people sit quietly, some scrolling through their phones, others staring out the window, lost in their thoughts. You sit near the back and listen to the soft murmur of the engine. After a moment, a young woman nearby says to her friend, "I'm exhausted," and her friend replies, "Same. I can't wait to get home." These simple words carry the weight of their entire day, and for some reason, hearing them makes you feel connected to them, even though you have never met. You understand them completely, not because the words are simple, but because the emotion is universal. As the bus moves through the city, you look out the window and watch the lights blur into long, colorful lines. You think about your journey today, the cafe, the square, the bookstore, the park, the river, the quiet street, the voices, the laughter, the tired sighs. All these moments created a story of you discovering English not as a school subject, but as a living part of life. You realize that today you didn't just practice English, you lived it. You breathed it. You welcomed it without fear. And the language welcomed you back. Eventually, the bus reaches your stop. You get off and begin walking the last few steps home. The night feels calm, and your heart feels light. You realize that you no longer fear real English. You don't freeze when you hear fast speech. You don't panic when someone talks to you. You don't hide behind silence. Because now you understand something essential. English is not your enemy. It is your doorway to people, to stories, to emotions, to connection. And every time you listen with openness, every time you speak with courage, every time you let yourself experience real situations, your English grows, not in your textbooks, but inside you. You reach your home and unlock the door. When you step inside, the quiet of your room welcomes you like a comforting hug. You take off your shoes, sit down, and let out a soft breath. Today was long, full, rich, surprising, and beautiful. You close your eyes for a moment and let your mind replay every sentence you understood, every voice you recognized, every feeling you caught between the lines. And as you open your eyes again, you whisper to yourself, softly but confidently, "I'm getting better. I can understand real English." And in that moment, something inside you settles gently, like a seed planted in warm soil. A seed that will grow day by day, conversation by conversation, moment by moment. And you know, deep inside, that this journey has only just begun. When you finally sit on your bed that night, the quiet around you feels different, not empty or lonely but warm, almost like the city's soft echo is still inside your ears, whispering tiny pieces of English you heard throughout the day, little sentences, short reactions, natural expressions, and all those small emotions that floated in the air like invisible notes of music. You look around your room and notice how still everything is compared to the world outside, and as you let your body relax, you feel both tired and energized at the same time, tired from walking so many hours, but energized from everything you learned without even realizing you were learning. You close your eyes for a moment, take a slow, deep breath, and suddenly you hear again the sound of the barista saying, "Good morning, what can I get for you?" The soft voice of the man in the cafe saying, "Cold morning, huh?" The laughter of the students. The calm voices in the bookstore, the friendly questions, the tired sighs, the excited reactions, all these sounds play inside your memory, connecting into a long, gentle chain of moments. And as you listen to them replay softly in your mind, you begin to understand something important. Real English is not just sound, it's experience. It is not something you memorize, it is something you live. You lie back slowly and think about how scared you used to feel before speaking, how fast you used to think native speakers talked, how many times you used to freeze or doubt yourself. But today, something changed. You didn't run away from English. You walked toward it. You let the language surround you. You let it breathe around you. You allowed yourself to make mistakes. You allowed yourself to listen openly. You allowed yourself to understand what you could and not worry about what you couldn't. And somehow, by doing that, you understood more than ever before. You felt English, not as a school subject, but as a living story happening around you, moment after moment. You sit up again, holding your warm memories in your mind like small glowing lights. And then something surprising happens. You start hearing English in your thoughts. Not perfect English, not textbook English, but natural English, the way people spoke to you today. You hear yourself saying softly, "Hold on," and then, "I can do this," and then, "That's okay," and then, "No worries," and then, "I get it." These words feel comfortable on your tongue, almost like your mouth already knows how to say them. And the more you whisper them, the more you feel that the language is slowly becoming yours. Not something separate from you, not something far away, but something inside you now. You stand up and look at yourself in the mirror. You look at your face, your eyes, your expression. You see someone different from the person who woke up earlier today. This version of you is not perfect, not fluent in every situation, not magically transformed into a native speaker. But this version of you is brave. This version of you is open. This version of you listens with patience, speaks with courage, and grows with every experience. And that is more powerful than perfection. You walk to your window and gently push it open. The cool night air enters your room, carrying with it the last soft sounds of the city. In the distance, you hear someone laugh, someone say, "See you tomorrow," someone call out, "Good night." These simple sounds feel warm and familiar, like old friends now. You rest your hands on the windowsill and look up at the sky, where a few stars glow quietly between the buildings. And as you breathe in the peaceful night, you feel a new sentence rise inside you, quiet but strong. I belong here. And it's true. You do. You belong to this world of real English, not because you are perfect, not because you understand everything, but because you are learning honestly, bravely, naturally. You belong because you are trying. You belong because you are listening. You belong because today you walked through the city like someone who deserves to be heard and understood. You belong because language is not about being native, it's about being human. You think about tomorrow. You think about all the voices waiting for you out there, voices of strangers, voices of friends, voices of people you haven't met yet. You imagine yourself greeting someone with, "Hey, how's it going?" or asking someone a simple question, or answering with confidence when someone speaks to you. You imagine yourself understanding jokes, making small talk, reacting naturally, joining conversations without fear. You imagine yourself smiling, laughing, connecting. And suddenly, the future doesn't feel distant or scary. It feels close. It feels possible. It feels like something already starting inside your heart. You close the window softly and sit back on your bed. And in the quiet of your room, you whisper one last sentence to yourself, slowly and clearly, letting each word settle in your mind like a soft promise. I am becoming fluent. Not someday. Not maybe. Not if I'm lucky. But now, here, today. Because fluency is not only about speaking perfectly, it is about understanding life in another language, and today you did exactly that. You turn off the light, lie down, and let your body rest. As your eyes slowly close, you carry with you all the voices from the city, all the emotions, all the tiny English moments that shaped your day. And just before you fall asleep, you feel a calm, confident, quiet truth settling inside you, a truth that says, "Thank you so much for joining today's lesson here at Mr. English Lab." If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below telling me what you want to learn next. Your support helps the channel grow and helps me create more lessons for you. Take care, keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next class.